My name is Kevin Kabor, and welcome to the Overrated podcast. Don't necessarily mean good or bad, but we create a discussion around a certain topic. This week, the topic is photography. Let's meet our guest.
Hey, I'm Arthur. I'm a videographer and photographer. I kind of focus on commercial work, so I work with brands, I shoot video photos for them, but I also do live music, and when I can, I like to travel and just shoot stuff for fun.
Yo, this is Joseph. I am primarily a photographer. Recently, I've been getting into video as well. I focus on mainly portrait work, trying to get into the fashion photography kind of side of things.
I'm Ben Weber, sometimes called Ben with the Lens. I do like music videos, photography, portrait photography. I take pictures of cars sometimes. I travel, and I work for a YouTuber right now, so I do a lot of stuff.
Yo, it's Andre. I guess I go by Epic Andre, specializing in photography. I suck at video work, so I'm working on that, working with local nonprofits, local businesses, and give me a follow.
What's up, guys? My name is Blake. I am a videographer, photographer dude. Recently just got into the more entrepreneurship side of photos and videos. I own a business called New Vision Creatives, so just trying to take it to new levels.
My name is Jonathan. I like shooting film, honestly. That's really what I like doing. I also like doing video as well.
What's up, guys? I'm Lucas. I do mainly videography. Most of that is comprised by weddings and sprinkled in with some commercial work here and there and documentary work on the side for fun.
Hi, I'm Tori. I shoot mostly, like livestock and landscape, and then I do a lot of wedding work. I do a lot of just regular families and seniors and all that kind of stuff. And then I do a lot of Western fashion work.
Yo, what's up, guys? My name is Woody. I'm a content creator out of Omaha. I can shoot anything from music videos and ads to shooting music artists and concerts and travel stuff. Appreciate Kevin letting me be on the podcast, and yeah.
Thank you guys so much for being on. The first topic is schooling. Should you get a photography degree? Don't be mad, but everyone has 1 minute to make their point. After a minute, I'm probably going to use my executive editing to speed it along. And Andre, go ahead.
For school, I think with photography, you really don't need a degree. You can kind of just start and, get some certifications with the programs. But otherwise, you really don't need a degree in photography. I've taken one photography class in college for some credits. And recently, I know it's sad, in my senior year, I decided to take a semester off. School just sucks. So kids, live your dreams, you know what I'm saying? Do what you want to do, live it up. Got one life. So, yeah, next.
Does anyone want to debate that? And we can add video.
I think, you know what, all I was going to say is I feel like there's a good point to go to school. I don't necessarily know if you need to get a full degree or anything, but I think the trap that everyone falls into at the very beginning of picking up a camera is how can I make money and how can I start doing something, and all my work's fantastic, and not getting people around you that are also critiquing you, or a community that's also in photography or videography. If you can't find that in your own life, then maybe school is the option to pay for that kind of networking aspect. But I don't think you need specifically a degree. I know a ton of people have gotten up to the very tip of a degree and then just stopped and known that they are going to make more money doing their job than actually just finishing out the degree. So.
All right, so I will say this, yo. So anybody who knows me close knows that I definitely don't agree that you should have to go to school, or that you need to go to school to pursue photography and videography specifically. But I will say this, just to play devil's avocados, okay? I will say this. I think if you're naturally a creative person, a lot of people I met in the industry are very, some people are really creative, but they really lack on business knowledge, just in general, understanding how contracts work, how legal terms, or just the way even copyright and things like that, or even just understanding how to finance a business, things like that. People aren't necessarily always creative and they're just business gurus at the same time. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's hard to be Sam Colder and Gary Vee at the same time. I will say that. But again, I'm also a firm believer that you can learn damn near anything, actually anything on YouTube. Yes, it's overrated in general. It's overrated. I would say that.
Yeah, photography degree is definitely overrated.
Yeah, specifically photography and video, not film production, but video specifically. Yeah, I would say overrated.
Ooh, that brings up a
Yeah, but film production too has that same caveat of it's more for networking than it is for.
I guess there's one thing I will say is that if you want to get into like the film industry, then film school is super useful in terms of like just learning what a set environment is like, what a production is like, what all the terms are, and like getting connections in the industry. That is so important in the film world. So
and also having like access to gear too. Being able to have a gear to invest into their students. Like, when are you ever really going to pick up a Red or something without laying a crap ton of money down, or an RE or something like that, especially with a bunch of lenses too. So lighting, etc. That's a lot of money to get into, especially for filmmaking. But yeah, photography, videography, I don't think I think it's overrated.
Yep.
Definitely overrated. I think like people have to remember like relationships are like everything, and so like if you're able to communicate with people in your city that are like equally creative or more creative than you, that are working on these things on a higher level, definitely reach out and just ask, like, can you learn? If you're willing to show dedication, people will definitely like bring you in their circle. And I've met people that went to like the New York film schools and have told me I don't even need to go. Like, people really don't need to go. They said it's overrated and it's just a way for, for them to make money off of creatives, really. Like, it's just like how there's now entrepreneurship degrees. Like, what's the point of that?
Got an entrepreneurship degree is retarded.
Oh God.
It's the dumbest thing ever.
Oh, I was just gonna say, on the topic of like online learning, if people are looking for like a great reliable source, I've had a lot of I've had a lot of good experiences with Creative Live, and they're taught by like people who are masters in their field. So like one of my favorite photographers, Jeremy Cower, has had they're kind of more like workshops and like training courses. But what Creative Live does, that's the name of the website, they'll stream it for free. Anyone can tune in for free if you make an account. But then if you want to download the full like recordings like every single day, because usually they're multi-day like events, pre-corona, obviously. So you could just pay to download that course. But if you're looking for something for free that's legit with top of the line people in the industry, I would totally recommend going to creativelive.com. Also not a sponsor.
And I think that if you're like looking for skills and trying to learn, Skillshare, I'm just playing. But I agree completely with what you guys are saying.
Promo code Kevin at checkout.
Let's move on to the second topic. Photographers, who needs them? We have a camera in our hands at all times. Are they necessarily to be booked? It's very glamorized nowadays. Like, people see us and think our lifestyles are cool, but don't see the editing. And is it worth like traveling? All that, is it worth it? Who wants to take this one?
Take this one. I don't know. I have a couple thoughts about that. Like, I think you guys know better than anybody. Like, there are so many super young photographers, videographers, whatever, in Nebraska. Like once you get to high school, you get like, I don't know, like 8 different friends who start doing photography, videography. And then in college, you have all these people who are, barely in relationships with their own, but they're shooting weddings, There's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying there's a lot of people who are really, really young and getting into it. And so people our age see a lot of people kind of buying really expensive cameras and posting stuff all the time and sharing how they're doing weddings or doing certain kinds of work. And I think it's easy for people to kind of, if they're not a photographer, lose sense of like what it actually means to be a photographer. Because I don't think a lot of the people that you see like in school shooting photos and stuff, I don't think they're like actually photographers. They're not doing it full time. They're not even doing it part time. It's not like a serious business for them, for like a lot of people. You have people like pretty much everybody here. You have people who are in this room right now talking together who, for us, we've put in a lot of hours. We've seen like the hustle that goes into it. And we've kind of made a commitment offline to like pursuing our craft and perfecting our craft. And so I think publicly there's a perception that there are a whole lot more photographers than there actually are, because I don't think as many people take it as seriously as we do, as people really kind of perceive. With that
Yeah,
said,
I think what you're saying is like the distinction between a hobbyist and someone. I don't even like
Yeah.
using the word professional. Just a hobbyist and someone who's actually trying to take it seriously in terms of a business. Yeah,
yeah,
and there's a huge distinction there. Yeah.
Yeah, there's, I mean, I know a handful of people who, I mean, all the work they show is just photo shoots that they've done with their friends, right? And to me, that's not a photographer. I mean, you're picking and choosing your clients, I guess, and really carefully curating your look before you're getting an inquiry in the door, right? With that said, I think for people who are photographers, the public's perception of us is overrated in the sense that our jobs seem really cushy and really easy, and we get to do super cool things, and they don't see like all the hours editing. They don't see that pretty much every job you do, you have to hustle for it to get it. It doesn't just land in your lap. Like a commercial job, there's a month and a half of emailing that goes into it before you're actually on set shooting anything, right? And so from that standpoint, it is kind of overrated, and I think that can lead to like undervaluing us. But that's if you are actually a photographer, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think the field is definitely like a lot of people use the word photographer, you know, like you said, they're hobbyist, and so like it's always just like saying who, like the longevity of every person. So it's like this person will, you know, it seems like after like 6 months, people usually just are done using their camera. Before that too, and so like it definitely does undermine the actual like photographer when it comes to jobs, because people are always like, you know, I could tell somebody they'll be like, oh, can you shoot my wedding for like $30 an hour? And I'm like, no. And then and they're like, okay, well, my cousin has a camera, you know, that they have, so I mean, we'll just do that instead. And it's kind of like, you know, but I mean, it's not. I don't think photography is overrated. I think it's a great field if you like it. If you're in it for the money and not in it to like actually grow and like create your style and be unique and set yourself apart, or at least try to, then it won't work well if you're just getting the camera just to try to just make some money. It's going to be hard. It's going to be competitive. I mean, it is competitive. So, but there's always going to be photos that need to be taken. So.
No, I think that's a good take. Lucas, you got any thoughts? Let me hear from you, my man.
I guess I don't have the perspective of photography, the photography side of things, like I said, I only do videography on a professional level, like as a full-time thing. And I feel like it's slightly different because of the saturation. As Arthur was saying, it feels like there's a ton of photographers out there, and there is a lot of people with cameras in their hands. As to how many people are doing it full time, legitimate LLC, all that stuff, obviously that number is way down than what you see on Facebook and all that stuff. So, whereas with video, it's much easier to distinguish who's professional, let's say who's serious, and does it to a degree that you would expect for a company or a client, versus who just does it for fun and maybe wants to just make some short films on the side, has some ideas they want to document. Because there's so many more layers or more facets to the final video product, whether it's audio, music, lighting, and lighting is part of photography, but it's a different kind of lighting, obviously. And so I think if you know the full picture of video with the editing, all this, everything comes with editing, everything comes with the gear on top of just the camera and lens, whether it's the lighting, tripods, all that, the modifiers, all that stuff. I think it's worth it, but I've also carved out a niche for myself where I can operate alone. I don't need a team of people. So if you can, and if some people like working on a team better, so if that's your thing and you have a team of people that are on the same mindset and vision, I think it's worth it. Just make sure it's sustainable at the end of the day, because it's like backbreaking work, lugging, equipment around all the time and sacrificing days for a person to get a line correct in an interview or something. So I can't even count how many hours I've spent on music bed just looking for music, and I think all videographers can agree picking music is probably one of the worst parts of video unless you're editing based on a song rather than the other way around.
Secretly, that's just the hardest part of making any video. So
exactly. Yeah, having to edit wedding videos back to back, that's honestly the part I have the most disdain for. Is I have everything laid out, all the pieces, and then finding out how to use those pieces because I have to find a song, and then making sure that song fits, like tempo-wise, length-wise, all these things, and then I'm picking from a limited database on top of all that. So,
we really like your edit, but can we get some different music?
Yeah, which is basically just saying, can you just start from scratch, minus the culling? But I don't know. For me, like there was no other option, so. For me, the benefit, like it was worth it. It's I think it's underrated doing video because there's so fewer people doing it that I don't have to try as hard to stand out, like, and be different or whatever you want to call it on Instagram. I don't have to promote myself as much. I have been fortunate enough to have word of mouth and referrals and just be in the right place at the right time for opportunities. So, and I didn't really go to school. I started community college part-time, and like some of you guys dropped out, if you want to call it that. I just stopped going basically. So I didn't really have much investment there to begin with. So it was like either I do video full time or I go back to school, and I don't want to go back to school. So I did everything I could to make this video thing work, and had the right team around me, people supporting me, like giving me people that were more experienced than I was, giving me connections and links that were invaluable to me and still so.
I think that there's a difference between someone with a camera and then a photographer or a videographer. Just because I have a paintbrush doesn't make me a painter or an artist. So I think that's how you can distinguish. But with photos, there's such a instant gratification that you take a photo and it's kind of easier to get something that people will like. Even if it's bad, you can get lucky pretty easy. But with videos, you can't. So that's where I'm with it. And I think you have to love it. If everyone in here didn't love it, we would have quit a long time ago because it's hard.
Again, I'll say for people, just real quick, if you're new or you're thinking about getting into it, just jump into it. And again, relationships. Just reach out to people that are experienced. If you want to learn from them. Like when I first started, I was told, I'm less than 2 years being a photographer. And so I was told to follow Kevin, and he never followed back. And then after a while, he followed back. When I was like, yo, I forget how we even just started talking. It was something. But it was a minute because I followed you, and I was like, he ain't never followed back. So I think I unfollowed you. And then
damn, the shade.
Wow.
Hey, next
time. I was just going to say one thing. If you do want to get into video, for anybody listening who wants to get video, there's never been a better time than now because of the quality in cameras and the tools that are accessible to the entry-level people.
Speaking of tools that are widely available, here comes our next topic. iPhone photography. Can you shoot on your phone, and is it worth it?
I feel like iPhone is like great for when you're trying to figure out like if you like video or photography. So yeah, I think it's underrated, honestly. And you can edit out some bangers on iPhone video and photos too. They're just so good nowadays that yeah. But as far as like shooting like a whole professional like wedding and stuff, or like a job, like a client job, nah, I don't think that you should do that. But if you're just trying to dip your toes in the water and you don't really know if you want to be a photographer or you don't know if you want to buy a camera or something yet, I think iPhones is definitely the way to go. That's definitely the route that took me into getting into photos and videos. So I think it's underrated.
Yeah, when I was 12 or around 13, I got the brand new like when it launched, the iPhone 4S, and honestly, that's what really got me into photography. Just having that camera with me, and then I discovered Instagram shortly thereafter, and figured out you can put filters on this. I've always wanted to edit photos. Like it was just a really cool flow. But I got some of honestly, some great work out of that, and it really helped. Just like it makes it accessible. You can just go throughout your day. You have your phone with you. You can try things out. Like, and another strength that phones have is like we all have a business and we need to put things on social media, and it's so easy to take a picture with your phone, a video with your phone of what's going on, and you can still totally apply basic photography and videography principles to that while you're doing it. And these, I mean, I bought the iPhone 11 on purpose because of like all the freaking awesome cameras on here. Haven't regretted it, and it's just this is a great camera. They're underrated.
Yeah,
Actually,
Hey, Lucas, what was that one girl's name on the set? What's her name?
Why is her name slipping me? Yeah, I follow her on Instagram. Her name is completely slipping me. Jamie Backstrom.
Yeah. So Jamie Backstrom, she does a whole lot of professional stuff. I seen her working with Hardy Coffee Shop, taking all their photos and stuff, and she just literally uses an iPhone and then edits it up right there, and then boom, sends it out, and it looks great. All of her stuff just looks great. So there's a lot of like professionals that just use iPhones, and everything just looks great. Like their feed looks great. They deliver the photos, and sometimes the clients don't even know that they're just iPhone photos. But yeah.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what Blake said. I think the kind of content you can make with your phones these days is insane, and really, really low barrier to entry to, like, if you want to learn something, like there's this app by Moment for video. You can shoot manual video. It's super high bitrate, and if you pay $5, you can shoot in log. And so the ability that you have to like gather content and what you can do with it and how you can learn to edit with it, your phone is like one of the best tools when you're first starting out. If you want to spend $0, it's like the easiest way to learn different concepts for photography, videography. Like the Lightroom app, you can shoot raw photos and edit things right on your phone. Like Ben was saying, that these new iPhones literally have a wide, a normal, and a telephoto lens on them. You can pretty much learn every aspect of photography, videography on your phone.
We mostly agree on iPhones. Now we're gonna go way back in time to this ancient technology called film. It's become really aesthetic and popular lately. What do you guys think?
I think for photo, it's a great tool. If you don't know anything about photography and you want to learn the technical side, it's the fastest way to learn the technical side of it. So you could just learn the fundamentals and just jump into the really easy to use digital stuff. Because you can't mess up when you don't want to find if you messed up days later when you reveal the film. For video, yeah, it's pretty overrated just from a cost standpoint. But for photo, I think it's an invaluable tool with how cheap cameras are, how cheap film is, and how cheap it is to get it developed at your local CVS or Walgreens. And on top of that, there's the whole niche side of it where you can get deeper than that into it. But if you're just looking to mess around and learn the hard way, but learn quickly for photography, film. But that's my 2 cents.
No, I agree with you, Lucas. I only started on digital anyway. You know, probably being like 2, I had a disposable camera, or all of us had a disposable camera around us. So I agree. Learning, if you're ever gonna like get into more photography, then yeah, learning on digital is a lot easier than trying to learn on film with writing all your stuff down. You can easily pull up all your data right on your digital camera. Yeah, exactly. You can pull up all your settings on your digital camera and learn from your mistakes there. Otherwise, you have to like write all that crap down and then analyze it later, which I don't ever do. I just kind of have learned and just continue to take more photos. I know that they're not excellent at the moment. Like, I always have room to grow with it. With video wise, with film, yeah, most of that stuff you can add. I guess in the next topic too is a look on top of it. Video editing has been really good. I feel like using DaVinci or using Premiere or anything along those lines. But honestly, I think there's just some kind of feel with feeling and there's just a feel with film when taking a photo, and that you can't really get with.
I'm sorry, John. I love you. You were making great points, but it's been past a minute, so I got to bring out the executive scissors.
I'll say with video, I honestly think that good film cameras or productions that show good film are like out of the range of pretty much everybody, unless you're working on a really high-end production. Like, film doesn't look good unless you're working super high-end content. And I think at that point, like, it's when people choose to use film at that level, it's entirely about the aesthetic and like Like, what does your image look like when you have no creative boundaries, basically?
I'm gonna wrap this topic up, and since I'm the one editing this and I can shut off all your mics, I'm gonna just say film is completely overrated. Just use a VSCO filter and call it a day. But I do have a video coming out with John soon about shooting with film. Let's see if my mind changes after that. Next topic is weddings. If you've seen this video, you know how I feel, but what do you guys think?
Weddings drive me nuts. I'm trying to get out of them because you meet your bridezillas, you meet your, oh gosh, it drives me nuts. And just, weddings are a once in a lifetime thing. So it's not like, if you mess up a session, you can always redo it. Or if you're filming something for someone else, like you can always redo it. But with the wedding, it's a one-time deal. If you miss the kiss, or if you miss the dad walking the daughter down the aisle, then that's it. And so I guess with weddings, there is a lot of pressure. So when people get into weddings, they maybe don't really see that pressure. I mean, if you like weddings, like that's great. And people do. Some people base their whole business around weddings. But for me, I don't think I could do that anymore. I think they're overrated. Not getting married, but
I'll second
just
shoot
shooting them.
a wedding any day just to make a couple $100. But like, I've only been the primary shooter for 3 weddings. I got out of that industry so fast. Like, it's kind of the worst. I mean, I feel like there's so many wedding photographers too. And one thing I'll say is like wedding photography, if you know how to use a camera, is the easiest way to not starve as a photographer. But creatively, I just got so burnt out, like
a lot of like cookie cutter stuff with it too, like the classic
so
family
pressure
portrait.
for
So much, just you get there and you're like, oh my gosh, and you have this timeline, but like following the timeline can be so hard. There's just so much that goes into a wedding that people don't see, and so I'm trying to get out of it as well.
I mean, there's something to be said about like, I'm a wedding photographer because I like making people happy. Like people who say that, like sure, but from a creative standpoint, I just don't find a lot of fulfillment in it, and so I think it's pretty overrated.
And people, sometimes they get into it for the money because obviously it's a great way to make money in photography. And but if you're in it for the money, you're not doing it right. And that's kind of what I got into it for. It was like, I'm going to start shooting weddings because I need some more income. That's not why I started photography, but, I started weddings for that reason. And I don't think that was the right way to start.
Has anyone done a wedding because they wanted to do it, like specifically wanted to, or only just because you like needed $500 and they were like, oh yeah, here you go. We'll put you on a shoot.
Both of them. I did that in I think I did a couple. I think I've done 2 weddings, and I think it is like kind of like it is a lot of pressure because I think the first one I missed that kiss, and I didn't miss it, but it was like real blurred, and I was like, I don't know, I can't like do anything with this, and then I got the part where they were separating, so it was like, well, I don't know, but I think like. It's too much pressure. It is kind of annoying because somebody's always walking around going, hey, you should do this and you should go over here and take a cousin of this and that. And we already got that, and then somebody's your assistant. You may have a second shooter, but then you have the family gets a little drink in their system, and then all of a sudden somebody's following you around and they're your assistant for the day. It just, I don't know. I just can't do it.
So for me, I would say if you're just getting started out in photography or videography, I would say, and you got like a little experience going, like you're good with your settings. I would definitely say that weddings are underrated because that's a great avenue to build up your gear, build up your professionalism, how to deal with clients, how to do this and that. But as like a full wedding like person, I don't think that's for me. But if that's for you, I feel like that's great because you're making that's a great income. I would I'm thinking about like building like a business around that, around like weddings, for people who like to do weddings, so that I just throw weddings at people who like to do it. But that's a whole nother topic. But I'd say just if you're just starting out, I think they're underrated. That's just my perspective on it. But as a full-time like wedding person, that's definitely not for me. I see your comments.
Hey, Lucas, you can work at a shop.
Yeah, I was actually thinking, because before this podcast, I was thinking about how many weddings I've done in the last, since 2016. And I didn't even want to look at the final number because I've edited quite a few more than I've shot when I worked at Complete. So for you guys don't know, I worked at Complete Weddings for 2016 and 2017 as a full-time video editor Monday through Friday, and then shot their weddings also on Saturdays. And that was definitely a crucible. You get to learn a lot really fast. I had not done any weddings before that, just rather video work. And I'm not going to say any good or bad things about them because that's a topic for another day. But like I did say, I did learn a lot really fast. I basically got multiple years of experience within 1 or 2 years. Yeah, and yeah, that's a whole different conversation about shooting for under other people. That's something I've chosen since leaving there to not do, is shoot and edit under another company, just because it doesn't make sense. Shooting or editing for other people is a different story, though. But either way, I think wedding filmmaking, which I don't know, I feel weird calling myself wedding films, but that's kind of been what the industry has shifted towards calling them. So I think just for the sake of relevancy, that's what I've called them now. I just don't call them wedding videos in my own personal conversations. But yeah, I think they're underrated, if anything. And that's unbiased, obviously, but I think they're heavily underrated because if you look at the way weddings are booked, vendors are booked, photography is usually in the top 3, if not the first thing couples will book, and video more often than not is one of the last things, if not the last thing they're going to book. Even though those two people are going to be working all day long together, this is the last thing they're going to consider is who's my photographer going to be working with and how is that going to mesh? Is it going to mesh well on the day of? Are they going to work together well? Is this videographer going to get in the way of my photographer that I paid $4 or $5 grand for? Are they going to let them do their job? Are they going to make the day slow down? And I think that's kind of like a bad mindset if you're looking to book wedding vendors, but that's not my that's not my place to be telling people that. But I don't know. For me, my body at the end of a wedding day hates it, but from a personal standpoint, I think it's really rewarding. I'm much more of a people pleaser than I am of like a confrontational take lead kind of person. So I think a wedding day fits perfectly with my more documentarian style. I'm not so much more of staging things as I am just kind of capturing how they are. So I don't feel as much pressure to set things up and like make sure I got these shots that I like to get. I kind of just get them as they happen. And be able to really facilitate a day, make the photographer's day easier, hopefully, make the couple's day easier. And at the end of the day, they feel like they got more than a videographer is where I find a lot of reward in that. But I can see why people wouldn't enjoy it. Like at the end of the day, I don't want to do it forever. And neither does my body. But yeah, I don't know. I think wedding film's underrated. Wedding photos, depending.
So for weddings, this reminded me of something. So like I did an interview with one of my professors last year, and one of the things we talked about was just how there's so many young photographers and videographers. Like if you know a college student who shoots a lot of weddings, that is one of like the richest college kids you've ever met. Like they make so much money and have so few like obligations financially, and so it's such a good way to make money, right? But I think a trap that a lot of people fall into is not really understanding if the reason they're successful as a young wedding photographer is simply because they kind of match the age range of their clients. Like to me, a lot of the reason that like so many senior photographers, so many wedding photographers are in the age range of like 18 to 30 these days is simply because we're more personable, right, with our client base. And I think it's overrated in that aspect because I don't know if people are thinking 15 years from now, 20 years from now, am I still going to be a successful wedding photographer, senior photographer, when I outage all of my clients and that personable aspect is no longer there? Like what happens when the new generation comes in and kicks you out the same way that the older generation feels like we kicked them out, right? So I think it's pretty overrated to be a wedding photographer in the public's eye or someone who feels like they want to get into it because they may not have that like foresight to understand why they're successful beyond their age.
Next topic, travel photography. Is it worth going places to shoot? Carrying all the gear, equipment. If I could only shoot X, my photos would look better. If I could only shoot in the sand dunes, my stuff would look better. What do you guys think about travel photography, perceptions, reality? Go.
I've had the opportunity to do a little bit of travel in my career. So I've gone to New York and Miami, a few places like that. And honestly, I've dropped the ball when I've gone there sometimes, because it's like you get in a new place. There's so much going on. There's a lot more complications when you're traveling. You're not in your element. You're probably in an Airbnb for like, getting 3 or 4 hours of sleep. Like there's a lot more pressure on it. And it can be a lot tougher. So, it's a lot of fun though. And I will say this, it's probably one of the best ways, just in general, more than there's the video and the photo side of it, but like to develop yourself as a person and build character. Because when you are traveling, you're putting yourself outside of your comfort zone. And I think that's where the biggest change and improvement comes in any field or any aspect of your life. So I highly suggest doing it if you have the opportunity.
I mean, with travel, I think my whole goal when I first started as a filmmaker was to travel and work overseas with like hotels and resorts. And so I had this big, huge thing in my head that this is going to be like the dopest thing. I'm about to make money doing this and just keep going, working with hotels, and then go to another place, work with another place. And so I actually did that. And I went to Thailand and I worked with hotels and resorts. And then I don't know, man, it was cool. Like I got to stay at these huge resorts, like 4 or 5 stars, every single different hotel every night, but it just wasn't like what I thought it would be in my head. And so after that, it got to the point where I was like, man, I don't even want to like go to this next hotel. Like I'd rather go book a hostel and then chill with some people or something. So after that, after I got back, I just kind of switched my whole thing, my whole like perspective on that, and my whole like goal around that. So I would say that if you see all like these like huge Instagrams with like all these travel photos and all these people traveling all the time, just know that it's a real grind, and like a lot of times like it's not as fun as it like looks. So
I'd say to kind of piggyback on that, like a lot of people, it's work. You're capturing the moment. You're not in the moment. So, you get to go to see, a cool cliff or whatever it may be, cliff diving, I don't know, some crazy stuff going on. You're not the one doing the cliff diving. You're making it look super fun. And when you have that finished product, it looks amazing. But the reality is it probably took you a 3-hour hike to get up to that place. You had to set up your gear, and then your battery wasn't working. So you had to switch them out, and then you're trying to get the shot. So you're not focused on being there and in the moment. You're focused on making the video and making the content. So it's not necessarily a vacation, but it's still cool and it's still unique. It's just not just chilling though. You're getting a hotel, but you're also, you got to get shots and you got to make a video, you got to make a product,
Right. Yeah. I mean, actually, like when I travel, I like doing that stuff though. So I like going out and like getting the photo, right, having like all that stuff. So it's different for me, but I can tell. Like,
I guess is what I'm saying. Like if you're going for that part of it, then it's amazing. But if you're going just for like the, it's going to be cool and it's going to be this easy thing, it's not going to be that, like you're saying.
Yup. Like sunrise shoots, waking up super early, sunset shoots, hiking back in the dark. It's a lot more work than people think it looks like. You look at a Sam Kohler video and you're like, wow, like his life must be amazing. But really, man, he's probably like kicking it in a car for like 2 nights straight. It's probably cold, rainy. You just don't know what's going on in the back end. So a lot of stuff is glamorous. I think we touched on this at the beginning, but it's a lot of it is a facade. So don't believe that.
I want to ask Arthur and Ben, how are like things that like shooting Odessa or things that people perceive are amazing and cool and maybe, how does like the expectations versus like reality, is there like a difference?
I think it's easy to give people the perception that you do that kind of stuff all the time. And that it just sort of falls into your lap and there's no problems. Like you get a cool opportunity and you make something really cool and then you move on to the next one, right? I think it's pretty rare that I get a project that I'm like super excited about, but it's only the projects that I'm really excited about that I show, right? So from that aspect, I think it's pretty overrated to aspire to that, because it just negates, like Blake was saying, all the work that goes into it behind the scenes. Like nobody wants to shoot a corporate interview, but sometimes that's what you got to do to make ends meet, right? I'm not passionate about shooting for a local fast food joint, but I did that. And that's work that I'm not really ever going to talk about. But it's overrated from the standpoint of like, there's a perception that it's all you ever do and that it comes easy. With travel specifically, so I know a couple people from BD, Beautiful Destinations, which is like one of the biggest travel media influencer, whatever agencies in the world. And their public persona is like made up of their creators, of their videographers, their photographers, Sam Colder, Jacob, people like that. But where they make all their money is actually like they work directly for tourism boards and they send them raw content, or they send them these random 15-second cuts for these agencies to like put in their own media internally. And that's a lot of the work that goes on behind the scenes that all those videographers, all those editors are doing that they never talk about. And it's super unglamorous. Like they go into their office in New York and they're sitting there for most of the week, but most of the world thinks that they're somewhere, that they're off in Dubai or something, right? And I've had a chance to like talk to Chris Shepard, who works there right now. And he described how like, it's like Blake said, you wake up every day at sunrise to shoot that. You go to bed super late at night editing or culling through media. And that's cool for most people, I think, for like a week. But on these jobs that Didi's going to, like they went to Egypt for 3 weeks and they did that for 3 weeks straight. And they like slept in a car and camped out one night because they wanted to get up really early to shoot something the next day. And that just takes a toll from everything I've ever heard from people who work for those kinds of agencies. It's a toll. It's something they don't talk about because it's really unglamorous, and it's something that people don't get looking at them from the outside.
And just to piggyback on that with event photography and videography, like, so yeah, you can shoot for like these dope ass artists, but a lot of times those people that like go on tour, and Woody's been on tour and stuff, all that really is just editing. It's literally like you shoot the thing and then you're going back and you're editing. It's dope like to hang with them, but I took a deeper look into it, and it's really just like, yeah, you're on tour going to all these places with these dope artists, but at the end of the day, when the show is over, you're back in the tour bus editing in the back. So yeah, it looks dope, but like you just got to take the L's with the W's. Like if that works for you, great. Just like wedding photography or videography, if that works for you, great, do it. But there's definitely some downsides, and it's not all glamorous, and there is some grind to it.
Yeah, so kind of to chime in with shooting cool people or cool events. Like Kevin mentioned, I had the opportunity to meet Gary Vee in New York when I was up there, and here's the reality. That was a literally a day or two up in New York, maybe a little bit longer. But that was a day or two. Like Arthur said, I shoot a lot of other stuff. I've made so many projects since then that I think are way cooler. And yet when people come up to me, they're like, oh yeah, how was meeting Gary Vee? Da, 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 da. So like Arthur said, it's that highlight reel. It's the coolest stuff. And even on to further with that experience, like see, you walk in there and you're like, oh shoot, I'm here. And it's cool. And then you're like, well, I did it. I'm here. I reached that. And then for me, I had a point where I was like, okay, what next? Like, I feel like I've done the cool thing that I wanted to do, and it didn't give me that fulfillment that I thought it would.
I think what's crazy, it's crazy listening to you guys here, to hear you guys talk. And it's hard for me to just keep my mouth shut because y'all know I like to talk way too damn much. But it's just crazy hearing Blake say, like it wasn't what you thought it would be, or what you were looking for isn't what you wanted, or isn't what you wanted up finding in traveling or doing the hotel thing and the resorts. Because I've had that offer thrown at me before. There's a YouTuber that I met when I was in Atlanta, and he wants to do something like that, and he wants to be kind of like the focal point. He wanted to hire me to go to these resorts and shit. And it's like, it's just crazy to hear you guys say that kind of stuff, or even talking about tour when he said, like, oh, when the show's over, you're in the back editing, things like that. And trust me, I love that stuff. Like, I love that, and it was like that. But I wouldn't say it was like that the whole time. And me, when I saw Sam Colder, is what I'm saying. When I saw Sam Colder, bro, I was like, damn, this dude is doing it. You got all the baddest girls, you know what I'm saying? You get paid. You whipping the Mercedes through the Dubai deserts. It's looking crazy. Like, yes, not everything's going to be picture perfect, but to me, it's everything I wanted it to be, and it's more. Like when I was on tour, I was mind blown. Like to this day, that's like my golden era of my career right now. You know, like I talk about it all the time, and it's because it's something that it's like, imagine it's like you hype it up, you hype something up the whole time, and then it's exactly what you thought it would be, and even more. Like that's what it was for me. And like going on tour was exactly that. When I went to London, we got flown out to London, we got bodyguards and Mercedes Sprint, like all the stuff you would see in a video is how it is. But it was for me. And I'm just saying, like, it was really cool and special to me because it's everything I thought it would be. It was everything I've heard it would be. And yeah, the shows would end, but guess what? I'm on stage too. I'm getting crazy too. You know what I'm saying? We turn it up too. You know, at the end of the shows, you know, yeah, I got to edit. I've knocked out edits like in 2 minutes, like a quick little recap, just knock it out, boom, and then we're good. Like, it just depends on the workflow too. But my biggest thing about tour was definitely hard work. You definitely are sleeping in the van. That is a bumpy ride. I got so many stories about that. I'm telling you, you be sleeping out of nowhere. You roll out your top bunk, because I was on the top bunk. And I'm not sure if you know me. I'm 6'1", 200 and something pounds. I'm a big dude that just be falling off the top bunk. You know what I'm saying? That's crazy. But
how did you not break a bone? Oh my goodness.
Oh my God. I broke a camera. I broke my lens. I broke it in Chicago.
No.
I had it fixed in like 5 hours. It was ridiculous. Like it was
well, at least
scary.
you got it fixed.
Yeah, facts. But my point, I just wanted to chime in with that is just like, for me, it was everything I wanted it to be. When me and Kevin, we did this road trip to shoot for this brand. There's a shoe company, and we went on this road trip. I was actually pretty proud of both of us, Kevin, because we both kind of orchestrated the models and everything like that, and driving and timing and where it was rushed. There were times where me and Kevin both got in each other's, we both got in each other's neck for it, but just being irritating to each other. But really, it was relatively smooth. Like, it really was. Like, it was relatively smooth. We had a good time. Yeah, there was times where we were both stressed the hell out, but it was a good time. I really enjoyed it. And Kevin, you can speak on it too, but it's just like, for me, it was what I wanted it to be. And that's why I keep doing it. Like, I've traveled quite a bit, like more than I could remember. That's how I know I traveled quite a bit. And it's super fortunate. It's not something everyone can do or is fortunate enough to do, but that is just something to keep in mind, is that there are people out there who it was what they thought it would be. The shoe did fit perfectly, And Kevin, I want you to speak on the road trip and stuff, and even going to Africa and things like that. Like,
yeah,
for me, it was what I thought it would be.
I don't want to have a vacation and not be able to take a picture. I would just be upset. Like, it would be a wasted trip, in my opinion, because that's what I find fun. Africa was different because I didn't have any expectations. So just to get anything, it made me happy. Joseph went to Paris. How was that experience?
So that experience was pretty awesome. So I guess, full disclaimer, I didn't go to Paris just to shoot, because like we were talking about earlier, there's a lot of kind of like glamorization of like traveling to shoot stuff. The reality of it is I was there on a semester abroad because I'm a senior at UNO, and so I just decided to do a semester abroad. But the experience of traveling and, being able to go to like a cool city like Paris or London was really awesome. And I enjoyed the experience overall. But what I would say is, people kind of tend to get into this mindset of, like, my photos will be really, really good if I could only go to like X location or like X city, whatever, like Iceland. There's a lot of really cool travel films about going to Iceland. Not saying those types of films are cool or those photos aren't it, but like, I think people just, no matter your experience level, you need to just kind of go into it with the mindset of, things may not turn out the way that you think they will. And to just be kind of realistic about it. Travel overall is just usually a pretty good experience, but you just kind of have to be mindful of those things, the limitations that you may have, and really just kind of making the most of the experience. Overall, I think travel, I don't know. It's kind of hard to say if it's overrated or not, but okay, I guess if I had to, I would say it could be somewhat overrated, especially with social media.
Slightly overrated, like quarter of the way there.
Literally like the middle.
Oh.
Yeah, I haven't traveled enough to know.
Yeah, same.
Overrated for work, I think. Underrated. Well, perfectly rated for like just traveling for fun.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I agree with that as well.
We're ending this off with our last topic. It's a process. What's the story behind you guys getting to where you are now? And was that overrated or underrated?
It was actually, so I went to, I don't suggest people to do this, but I did an application for the Omaha Fashion Week and was like, oh yeah, it's like, I was like, just a few months in, I'm like, yeah, let me go shoot here. And I went, I had just got the Sony a6300 and I had the Nikon, little old bitty cameras. And so this photographer, like, I'm in the press area, he looks at me and he's like, I remember I had that like 20 years ago or something like that. And he's like, yeah, they take decent photos, but this camera right here, I get the best photos. You might get some decent quality, but like your camera kind of sucks. And he like kind of like downplayed me, and I'm like, okay, what I'm saying, snap. I thought my photos came out like equally as good as his, and after that, I was like, no, I don't know, for some reason, I kind of got into the mode of this guy right here, my guy right here, feel me. Kobe, the Mamba mentality. I was like, I'm gonna find out who he is, and I'm gonna like destroy everything. I don't know. For some reason, I just was like, I gotta be better than this guy like 20 times. I didn't know his name. I don't know who he is, but that was like my moment when I was like, I have to be a lot better than this person, and I have to be better than like the Fashion Week. I have to be better than Omaha, and I'm not. But shit, I was like, that was my mindset after that. And I think after like meeting some people and being told that my photos are dope, I like took it in as like, oh, cool, But I think like realizing my photos are cool, I think was just like recently, really honestly. When I made this canvas, that was when I was like, okay, they're kind of nice.
Yeah, you killed those photos, bro.
That one, I have another one in my room that I took in the protest. And that was the protest photos was actually like when I kind of was like, those are kind of dope. And,
yeah, those are dope.
No, I'll summarize the beginning of it all. I borrowed my sister's camera when I was 13 and goofed around for a long time, just making little videos around the house, just little short films, if you want to call them that. It's a very discredit to short films by calling them that, but no. And then I realized I've really enjoyed this video thing. Like I enjoyed telling stories, I enjoyed capturing stories, and for people to be able to rewatch it, like to preserve those moments, just like photographers talk about preserving moments, but truly preserving that story aside from just those instant frames. And so I was working like minimum wage, but I invested in a Canon T2i that was like $750 at the time. Crazy. But and it was like, it's either that or the 7D or the 5D Mark II if you wanted to get a serious video camera but didn't want to spend more than a gazillion dollars. And so I got the T2i and I started doing videos with my local church, and that gave me a really good like pool of really intense life moments for people that were really spiritual and everything. And it really taught me how to kind of like how you mentioned the protest photos, like that journalistic side of creativity where you kind of just you capture things the way they are, but you make it look and feel the way it was. You may make it look more glamorous than it was, but that's to emphasize the feeling of what it was like to be there, and not to necessarily mislead people. But did that for a few years, and then I kind of didn't. I grew up in Massachusetts. I was living in Massachusetts when this was all happening, and I was in 2015. My brother was out here for a few years with Air Force, and he invited me to move in with him because where I was, it was a dead end basically. I was doing all this video work, but it was for free, and there wasn't really much opportunity elsewhere. And I didn't have a degree, didn't have a ton of professional experience. I was just learning on the YouTube, like just from doing and getting it wrong. And so I basically had this 10-year process of learning and doing things wrong and doing things the hard way. And then when I moved to Nebraska, I just looked for video jobs because I'm like, it's either that or go back to school, like I mentioned earlier. And I noticed there was a video job at Complete Weddings, and that's where it kind of all snowballed. And kind of like Andre, I get very competitive about things, and not that I carry that into my interactions with people, but I use it as just a fuel for the fire. And like in my mind, like low key, I was like, I just want to change the wedding video game in Omaha. That was like my drive. Not that I was going to step on anybody to do it, but I was like, I want to flip this whole thing on its head, and just show people there's a another way. And I wasn't the only person to think that way creatively about wedding videos, but it helped me just kind of push myself and not limit it to myself. Oh, okay, does my wedding video look as good as the next person's? All right, then I'm cool. Like, no, like I'm till this day trying to find little ways to get those little improvements. I mean, my camera's like 4 years old now. I had A7S II. I've refused to upgrade because I know there's still room for improvement just using that camera. So, and all my lenses are still manual focus because I learned on that T2i when there was no autofocus. So I have never learned how to use autofocus since. Not that I haven't, but it's just not for me. And all my lenses are probably older than I am now, but we've talked about, talking on that a little bit later.
I've never heard that in my life. I don't know how to use autofocus, or you don't want to use autofocus.
No, it's not that I don't know how to use it. I don't know how to adapt to my style. I don't know how to adapt my style to it. It would take some time.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
I could figure it out.
A photographer could make.
No. And the thing is if I shot stuff like you guys shot, there's situations where I wished I had autofocus. I had to borrow a lens from somebody, or
sounds like a Sony boy problem.
But part of it too
lenses.
Yeah, it's because like with video, I don't do any photo really, so that was also part of it. If I did photo, like that would change a lot of things for me. But I know I'm not going to stick with Sony forever, and my lenses will be able to carry with me wherever I go. So glass doesn't expire, but technology and cameras does. So if you just get good lenses that are solid and don't have fungus in them, because that's something you have to think about with old stuff, and they look good and they
or radioactive.
And that's where I got today, but just treating people right, doing the best I could, not falling to trends. Not that you can't learn from trends, but not defining yourself by what's popular in the moment. And I forget the last. Oh yeah, like I see a lot of these people buying these. You guys were talking about ProMist filters in the chat and stuff, and like these Dream Effects filters. Like I bought a 50 that just has a little extra haze built into it because it's old and wasn't perfectly taken care of for 30 years, and it has a built-in glow and bloom to it. So it's like people are hopping on this bloom and dream look, and it's like I've had it in my lens this whole time.
You mean it's tell me you didn't put Vaseline over your lens or
no? Sometimes I wish I could turn the haze down, and it backfires too. I wish I could turn the glow and the bloom down, but it's just the way the lens is, and either I have to get a new one or just use a different lens. So
that's common. I love it though. Yeah.
It's just, nothing against autofocus and stuff. It's just where I came from and what I do now doesn't warrant it 99% of the time. So, but yeah, if you ever want to know about vintage lenses, how did we get here?
No, what was the epiphany moment? What was the moment that you're like, oh, I got it, and you just became the GOAT that you are today? Like what?
We're still far away from there, but I think it wasn't a specific moment, but I think the 2 years I worked, the second year I worked at Complete, I kind of fell into the groove that I'm in now. That year, so just for context, I shot 40 weddings, and you're expected to edit one video a day, Monday through Friday, a whole wedding video from a different franchise or whatever. I never signed an NDA, so I don't give a crap. But and so I edited probably over 100 videos and shot 40 that year, and that was like either I'm gonna like this or I'm gonna quit after this and like never do this again. And the epiphany moment was that year where I'm like, I enjoy this. People enjoy having me at their wedding day. They're referring me all this stuff. I don't need a company to babysit me over this, and kicked that to the wayside and did my own thing. And been doing that ever since. So,
fire.
Sorry, that was a really long answer, but
that's good. Arthur, what?
I know my epiphany moment was thanks to Kevin. I literally did not get the sauce until Kevin gave it to me. Like literally, I'm not even gonna lie. I didn't earn it. I didn't. I'm not gonna lie to you. I didn't earn it. Kevin literally gave me like an old preset that a preset that he did use, and I just made a few different tweaks with the way I wanted my colors to look. Ever since then, bro, killed it. Like now I can edit from scratch, but like I didn't. You can literally go to my Instagram and see it. Like it's crazy. I think it was like some concert photos, and then you just see photos of this one model. And ever since then, I've had the sauce. So shout out to Kevin. He made me for sure. Yeah, I'm gonna get exposed one day. You all gonna bring up this recording. That's what's gonna happen. Blake, Joseph, what about y'all? Arthur, you ain't talked in a minute. Ben, you just typing too much.
I'm trying to not talk. I feel like I've talked too much, and like.
Joseph, tell me something, bro. What was your birthday?
I think Arthur was about to go for a second.
Arthur, yeah, I can't see everyone's face. My bad. Yeah.
Ninja.
I guess I started off. So like I was an engineering major. That's how I started school, I guess. And my whole family is engineers, programmers. And when I was a kid, my parents skipped me ahead 2 grades. And so that was cool from like, you graduate high school at 16, which means you can pretty much go anywhere in terms of college. But it also means your parents get to decide where you go and what you study. And so they put me in engineering because that was kind of our family. And like the second part of that is my dad, as an engineering professor, like he did research as well as teaching. And so UNL would send him around the world to go to different conferences. And so as a kid, that made it really easy for us as a family to travel. It was super luxurious, actually. Well, not luxurious, it was super lucky. Because his hotel room was paid for, we had a rental car paid for, we would just sleep on the floors, right? And so as a kid, we would go out to all these countries, and my family would bring a camera, and they just kind of discovered that stuff looked better when I took it, either because I wasn't at eye level because I was a kid, I was like 5 years old, but that sort of stayed with me throughout my childhood, to where once I was in college, hating my life as an engineering student, I basically just procrastinated every single day and tried to teach myself how to use a camera. I started out on a Nikon D70. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of it before. It's like $50 on Amazon right now.
That's amazing.
It was like the first ever digital camera that was like meant for mainstream consumers back in 2004. And I started on that, and I just took so many pictures of like electrical circuits that no one's ever gonna see. But when I turned 19, I moved out from home, changed my major, found my own place to live, and started paying for college, right? And like
when you turned 19, damn, bro, you like 50 years old or what?
Well,
you said that like that was 20 years ago.
That was last year for me.
Yeah, that was 3 weeks ago for me. What are you talking about?
Like 19 is when you're legally an adult in Nebraska. And so that's the
only in Nebraska,
stupid.
right?
Yeah, it's so stupid. Yeah, it's only Nebraska.
So like that was the only time I could leave home and kind of do my own thing. And then once I came to UNL, I started doing just photo, video work for fun, and tried to work my way into different things. Like I shot a video of a Husker football game from the outside. Like it was a Wisconsin, I think, versus Nebraska, back in like fall of 2016 or 2015. And I just like made a video of it. It took me like 9 hours to make a minute-long video, which is nuts to me now. But I put it on YouTube, put my email in it, and then shared it to a bunch of Facebook groups. And then 2 days later, I got an email from the Huskers. And on the third day, I like had a meeting with them, and they brought me onto their team. So that's what really got me started as far as, the whole idea of like doing things and like just doing work without the expectation of getting paid, and like developing yourself in an area that you want to be in, so that when it comes your way, you can kind of be prepared for it.
That's a huge one, bro. Free work. People don't do that enough. People don't do that enough.
So
and I stand firm on that.
There's one caveat with that. It's I believe in volunteering free work. I don't believe in people asking you to work for free, and I don't believe in doing free work that people are already looking for, because that just eats into your industry. Like I'll volunteer portrait photos for a friend who like hasn't wanted them taken, right? Because they're not looking for it. I'm not taking away business from the industry. I'm not going to go volunteer free video to like an ad agency and to work with them for free just to make a connection, right? So I believe in free work, but only free work that people aren't already looking for.
It's really good.
So exposure doesn't pay my bills? Is that what you're saying?
Right, yeah.
Damn, I better contact my landlord real quick. Hold up.
Very good point.
Been bamboozled.
As far as like when I feel like I've made it, I guess it's similar to what Lucas said. I don't feel like I've like made it, just because I continue to get different kinds of work that are like challenging to me, that I don't necessarily feel ready for, but that I just kind of have to make myself ready for. And I'm not like working as consistently as I would like to be able to do this full time, right? To where I think it's sustainable for 15 years, 20 years. So I don't feel like I've made it yet. I don't feel like I'm there. I'm just trying to do different things to learn, so that when things come my way that allow me to grow professionally, I can be ready for them.
Blake, you look like you got something on your mind. What you thinking, bro?
Nah, I was just.
I'm sorry, I'm not hosting
really.
this. My bad, Kevin. I'm just stealing it from you and all that. God dang. My bad.
Kevin,
But yeah, let me hear what you got. Let me hear what you think.
Kevin, you're muted.
Yeah, I wasn't even about to say nothing.
Oh,
But yeah, what
Kevin,
Arthur
you're
said.
muted.
you look like you wanted to say something.
Kevin's been trying to say something this whole time, but he's been muted.
I was about to say, yeah. I was about to just go, Blake. It don't even matter.
What?
Okay, I see 4 people.
I have one. I have one
I
if we
see
need
3
one.
people on my screen, so
Yeah,
I just
definitely,
I forget everybody. My bad.
I don't know. Process like what it took to get where you are.
So, like, how did you get to where you are now? And what was that epiphany moment that, like, oh, I'm either good, or that moment that changed you, if that makes sense?
Oh, okay.
So,
So I don't know. For me, I was just about to go to Europe on a study abroad trip, and I didn't know. I was getting a degree, but I still didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. The degree was entrepreneurship. Then I figured out that, damn, you can't really do shit with entrepreneurship as far as like get a job. And so I was like, damn, what the hell am I gonna do with myself? And so I just like I liked making little videos with just like GoPros and stuff, and I kind of wanted just to show people what I was doing in Europe. And so I just kind of looked up videos, how to make a travel video, and then I fucking
We've all done that.
yeah.
How to do
And
Sam
then-
Colder.
Yeah, and then
Teal and orange.
Yup.
Free preset.
Yup. So right before I just started looking up a bunch of videos, and I was like, damn, all these people are like traveling and like doing this video stuff. I kind of like making videos. I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna just be a travel videographer. And then so and so I just started doing a bunch of like videos with my GoPro. I made this GoPro recap video, which I thought was the hardest thing ever of all my trips in Europe put together. And that was literally with the iPhone and a GoPro. And yeah, now looking back, it's trash. But yeah, that's how I started. And I'm just like a natural competitive person. And so I just started like in my mind, I just started competing with like the Sam Colder, the blonde, that one blonde kid. And so whenever they would like literally put out a video, like I'd be like, damn, like I need to be going harder. Like my shit needs to be harder than theirs. And so I just kind of like put myself in that arena to it. And then that just kind of like helped me grow a lot, because I'm not competing with people around me. I'm competing with the best in my mind. And yeah, and just always trying to like make something better than my last. And just trying to just grow that way. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's
I don't think
tough.
it's hard once you, because like I feel like you hit like a peninsula, and then your stuff just starts looking the same, and it's just like, damn, how do I make this better? How do I make this better than the last? How do I make this better than the last? But yeah, that's just how I grew in it. I think just tapping into my competitive nature and trying to always top myself. I don't think I'm good at all. Yeah, but yeah, I'm kind of taking a step back from videography and doing more of the entrepreneurship side. But yeah, it's still dope. But that's just how I got to where I am.
That's what's up. Ben, you had something to say.
Yeah, I can answer this question if you want, or I mean, I can let somebody else do it.
This fool.
Oh yeah,
I don't want to just butt in and like do my whole thing. Okay, so here we go. I was sitting in, I was probably like, I don't know, 9, 10 maybe. I was sitting in my room, had this old laptop from like 2002, and on it said Windows Movie Maker, and I thought to myself, I've always wanted to make a movie, so I clicked on it, and here we are, 10 years later. But no, a lot of it was, just that repetition, just doing it because you love it. And more recently, in the past few years here, I've really tried to make it more of a business. I was really lucky to not make it a business for a while, and literally just do it for fun and improve the skills and all that stuff. But as I've kind of tried to monetize it, it's been a super unique challenge. I'm very entrepreneurially. Is that a word? I don't know. I dropped out of college.
It is now.
I have a pretty good entrepreneurial mindset, and so it's been really fun to pair those two things together. But like Blake was saying, you reach a plateau of your skill set, and you do have to challenge yourself. After you've done it for a while, it's kind of like you reach a point of diminishing returns. At first, you're learning, oh shoot, what does ISO do? What does aperture do? These big things, and then at some point, you're like, oh, I figured out a new way to pair the audio together on 4 timelines. So it's not as exciting as you go on. But if you're passionate about it and if you love it, you're gonna work through that stuff. And as far as like a moment that I realized I've quote unquote made it. Definitely haven't reached that moment yet. And honestly, as soon as I do reach that moment, I'll probably stop making videos and photos because my MO is I really love building. I love the process. I don't ever want to get to a point where I feel like I'm just coasting and just doing it to like be there basically. So if I'm not challenging myself, then it's just not interesting to me. So who knows? Maybe I'll like pivot careers in like 10 years. We'll see.
Perfect. Joseph?
I was just a quick little thing I've noticed, like with you guys telling stories. For everyone that ends up coming into this field and sticking with it, you notice it's either an entrepreneurial person that learned the creativity side to make their entrepreneurial fulfillment, like to get fulfilled through the entrepreneurial side, or they're a creative person that had to learn how to be entrepreneurial to fulfill the creative side. And it's kind of interesting to see those two worlds kind of collide.
It's cool to see you notice that, because that's the first thing I say with the school thing is like there's people who are creative and need to be entrepreneur and need to learn how to be an entrepreneur in business.
I was on that boat.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And like that's what was weird is I really never struggled with business, like not understanding things. Like that's what's weird about it. Like and creatively, there's obviously things you have to learn technically, but just technically speaking. But I feel like a lot of it was natural. To have people kind of unbalanced is very common, like in that sense. But that's dope that you picked that up for sure.
Joseph, I think was going to say something.
Yeah, I was going to hop in, and I'm glad you said that, Julian, because I feel like my story is kind of, I mean, it's like the epitome of what you guys were just talking about. Because those of you who don't know, I'm in my senior year of getting a business degree at UNO, and I guess I'll back up a little bit more, but. So I've been doing, I've been interested in photos for, I don't know, like 7 or 8 years, right? Like ever since I was younger. And so I actually kind of, like my family, when I was younger, they noticed that I was always kind of like hustling, for lack of a better term. Like, so my family had moved to the US. So we were kind of just starting from the bottom basically. And I was looking for ways to make money as a little kid. So, cutting grass, all those different things that you hear, kind of like people who have that entrepreneurial like spirit, do in the beginning to make money. And so I feel like those worlds kind of collided. I must have been like, I don't know, 13 or 14. I was taking photos for a while. And one day I decided to just kind of like make a Facebook page and, post my photos on there and just to see if anyone's really interested in that. And so I did that, and that wasn't even with the intention of like making any money. That was just kind of me like figuring out what this photography thing is and seeing, where it would take me. So I did that, and I think within like a week or two of just posting some photos I was taking of my brother, just to learn photography, I had someone reach out to me about like family photos. And so that was kind of my first paid gig. And it's funny because I remember I think I made like $50 from that, and it was like a 1 or 2 hour shoot. And, I edited the photos on top of that. But I just remember how excited I was, to make that first small amount of money. And so, I feel like, having that business side of things and being curious about that really kind of led to where I am today as far as photography goes. And so, yeah, I kind of forgot where I was going with this, but yeah, I think, that's a great observation on your part, Lucas, that a lot of our stories kind of have those elements of being business minded somewhat or being creative and just kind of having those two worlds collide in a sense. So
if you watch this whole thing, thank you. You're a real one. Thank you for my guests for staying and chatting. You can find their Instagrams below. If you have any ideas for topics, you can DM me or message down below. And see you next week on Overrated or Underrated.